Today for repair we have a comfort zones or uncomfortable areas VN. The model number is CZ6CBK. Made in China. Oh, made in China in 2019 and broken in America in 2021. World and Maine's Cranberries Limited Liability Corporation Electric VN. Okay. This is a friend's VN, and he asked if I could try to fix it. I've had several of his VNs pass through the shop now. I think this is the third one. Jeez, he breaks a lot of VNs. Well, anyways, let's see what we have here. I'll plug this thing in. And here we go. I can feel it vibrating, but we have no movement. Let's get this guard off of here and see what's going on. The bearings is probably just locked up. They're not, I mean, they're tight, but they're not that tight. Yeah, they're dry. Okay, so it just needs to be lubricated and cleaned. Okay, there's an awful lot of hair on there. What in the world? I don't think that's the cause of the problem, but that does have to go. Huh. Now we got nothing. Okay. This is having some problems. Let's see if we can get those bearings cleaned up and lubricated. Because clearly they're very dry. Usually these come apart pretty easily. I'll just take that out of the picture for now. We have one screw on the back of the motor. We'll get that screw off. Always use the right size bit so that the screw doesn't strip. The screw didn't strip. And we're going to have two more screws on the inside of this holding the switch there. The wire's about to come out, that's cool. And I'd like the screw to come out of there. There we go. And now, you see, that's dangerous. In China, I guess that's okay, but in America, we kind of like the wires to be all the way in, you know, so that it's safer. And there's the piece of junk motor. Looks like the whole thing is painted. That's kind of odd. Well, anyways, let's get it out of there. And we're going to have to take this strain relief out as well. Okay, great. Now we have, this is separated. I'm going to pull this through so that this can all be washed. And I'm going to go ahead and wash this now so that it can be drying while we work on the motor. it's been cleaned. So now we can take a look at the motor while this is drying out. So the bearings are, they're so dry, it's like there was no lubrication put in at the factory. They're not really rooted at all, so I think it'll run again just fine. But they're going to have to be lubricated. So I'm going to get out my used ticker towel here. And we're going to get out the oil. Now on the table here I have a couple different kinds of oil. I also have some casters on the table, but more relevant to the video, I have some oil, and there's a couple different kinds here. There's the kind in the black can, which is not for fans. This is for those crazy two-wheel things, a saw blade, whatever that is, and a wrench, or not a wrench, like cutters or a wrench. This oil, however, the one in the blue can, is for fans. It says it right on there. Unblur fans. Can also use it for power saws, lawn mowers, drills, circular saws, shop tools. It's made in the USA too. So we're going to use this for fans. We can also use zoom spout oils, which is specifically for electric motors, which is what's in a fan. And this one, I'm not sure where this one's. I think this one's made in America too. Anyways, this is what we're going to use. I got to get some more of this, but there's plenty for the video. There's plenty for like 50 more fans actually. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the bearings apart. I got two screws here that will undo. Okay, and this is a very strange motor. It's the whole thing is like painted black. I've never seen that before. Usually it's just metal, unpainted metal. Anyways, so we don't want to lose the orientation of that, so we know that this is the front side. And then here's the bearings. You can see on the shaft this was run dry for some time, and the heat and friction buildup has caused some wear on the shaft, so that probably took a little bit of life out of it, but I think we'll be able to get it to run again. So let's see if any of this cleans off. Actually, a lot of it did clean off. Well, you can still see the wear marks from the heat and the friction on there. So that's not good, but you know, I mean, you could put this on a lathe and turn that off, but this is not worth doing that on. Okay, so now we have two bearings. We have a thrust washer on either side, and I'm going to clean out these bearings here. I don't think there's much of anything left in there, but if there is, let's get it out. Any dried up lubricant or anything like that. Oh, there's actually quite a bit in there. That's surprising. Okay, well, that certainly explains why it's not working. Let's clean that out one more time. Okay, and we'll do the same thing with the other side, the rear bearing. I think the rear bearing isn't what dried out. I think it was the front bearing. Yeah, this is still pretty clean. Alright, and we'll clean these thrust washers off. Same case here too. The front one is really dirty and the rear one isn't that bad. Okay, so now we're going to re-lubricate this, or lubricate it for the first time rather, because I'm sure they didn't do this at the factory. This stinking Chinese, made in China garbage plant, the unethical plant that made this thing. Is there even, yeah, there's a little bit of wicking in there. There's a material in there that's supposed to hold the oil, and so theoretically this should be filled up like this. And then over time the oil will seep through the bearing as is needed. And this is where they go wrong at these cheap manufacturing plants. They don't do this. They don't put the oil in here. And so then it dries out and it breaks, you know, in a year or two, which is ridiculous. Okay, so I'll let that sit there for a minute and seep into the bearings. And I just noticed as I was putting away, this is in fact made in USA. Okay, it's been some time and the oil has seeped in. So we're going to put this back together now. We're going to put one of the thrust washers on the back and another on the front. For heaven's sakes, get out of here, you piece of junk. Okay, I'm going to get the oil back out again. I don't know why I put it away. I'm going to put a little bit of oil on the shaft directly. Not a lot, just a small quantity. And then put this back here where it's supposed to go, and that'll slide on there like that, and that's in place. And I'm going to do the same thing on the front. And the dog is out of control today. See, this should be spinning freely, and it is. So we'll stick this on here, and then we'll screw this back together. And this needs to be evenly torqued, and we're going to use the right size bit so that the screws doesn't strip. Because if the screws strip, then it turns into a freak show. It don't have to be tight at all, just firm. Now the shaft is going to be froze up here at this point, and it's quite stiff now. All we have to do is take a screwdriver and smack it a couple times, and it'll be ready to go. Okay, it's running freely now. I'll plug it up and make sure it still works. Okay, it is the working. I'll try the other speed. That speed's the working as well. Okay, so now we can put it back together. And now I can put the wheel away when we're done with that. And we're done with this ticker towel until next time. And there goes the oil again. Okay. Okay, so we're going to pull this cord back through. And it's still a little bit wet in here, but it's fine. want to put the motor back in. And just for those that is curious, the motor is made by some crazy name. On Blur. It's made by CZ6CBK Manufacturing Company Limited. Apparently limited to about 2 years of use and then it breaks. Okay. This just slides back in there and it's going to sit right where it was. And we'll screw this in. Using the right size bit, of course, so that the screw doesn't strip. These are not magnetized screws, or is the bit having a magnetization issue? It was the bits. Well, that's nice. It's not aligned correctly. Now it is. Alright, and then the strain relief will go into place. Okay, so that's what that should look like. And then the switch needs to go back on. Now we have to check and see which side it's got to be on, because if it's on the wrong way, the orientation won't be correct. Okay, so I'm going to plug this in and we're going to see which side is the faster speed. I think that's going to be the faster speed. This is going to be slower. Okay, so the low is on the left. So it's going to go in like this. It looks like that's bent. Has plastic bend. Maybe it's supposed to be like that, I don't know. What cheesy manufacturing. They put the bolt outline on, or the nut outline on both sides. They couldn't even put it on one side. I mean, I guess that's fine because it doesn't matter which way you screw it in, but years ago they would have taken the time to make it different. Okay, that's on there now. This is all loose and screwed up, but that's, I guess it's just how it is. And we'll put the guard back on. Okay, let's plug this thing in and see if it works now. It is working. It's extremely out of balance. Hardly moves any air. It shakes more than it moves air. Oh well. That's where we're at nowadays with these things. How pathetic. Well, it works. It doesn't work well, but I think it works as well as it did when it was new. I can't believe how out of balance that is. And it's got to be really, really out of balance because this is a small, lightweight blade. It would take a fair bit of weight to throw it off that bad as it is. Well, anyways, I'll conclude the repair of the uncomfortable zones. World and Maine's cranberries, blueberries, whatever berries you want it to be. CZ6CBK Fian.